Hey everybody, welcome back to Flash Tutorials with Alan Becker. Guess what we're going to be studying today? That's right, we are going to be making fire and explosions. So I just gathered here pretty much all my fire and explosion graphics that I used in Animator versus Animation 1, 2, and 3. So we have the small explosion up here, the fireball launching, the giant explosion, and this minor explosion. We have the fast flame and the flame during slow motion scenes. So, yeah, how do you start when you want to make a flame or explosion animation? Well, I think first we should try to make our own flame. So, let's stop this animation, hide this layer, and then make a new layer, and then we'll bring in our BG flame slow. And so let's step through this and see what it's doing. So if we look at it slowly, you notice that there's just basically pieces that are moving upward. It's just like shapes that gradually go higher until they split off from the bottom and then get smaller. So if you understand how fire basically works, then you just kind of have to wing it based on what you know about fire. So first, let's make the most basic fire animation that we can. So I'm making a new layer, and let's just make it a blob like that, and then F7 and turn on the onion skin. So what it's going to want to do is move upward. So the tendency of flame is to stretch up, kind of get smaller until it kind of tries to break off, until it gets really thin, and then it breaks off. So the bottom is going to kind of go back to its original state, while the top is going to get smaller and smaller. And then it's going to start to want to go back up again. So as this one is getting smaller, this one is coming up and doing the same thing. So it splits off there, and then gets smaller again at the bottom, or flatter. So I think you might get the idea. So if we play this, yeah, that looks kind of like fire. So let's move on and make a flame that has 2 points, like that, and see how that's going to react. So let's see. The 2 points are going to want to both move up. So let's make them move up, but make sure that the general size of the whole thing doesn't get too much bigger than its original size. It's already getting kind of big, so to make up for that, we're gonna have to like stretch it like that instead of just making it bigger. So I think it's just gonna break off here. Maybe this one isn't gonna break off yet, just to give it variety. This part breaks off. This part maybe breaks off there. Of course, this is just my way of making fire. Of course, my fire isn't necessarily realistic. It's an illusion, of course. But, it's back to a ball again. I don't really like that. Let's give it a point. And the points will usually come from the sides and move upward. So this is 2 points, and next we'll do 3 points. See if you can catch on. See another point coming off from the side. Alright, let's look at that. Yep. It's a ball on fire. Let's make a third one and give it a small side flame on each side and then a big one in the middle. So we're moving on to the 3-prong. So each prong is going to desire to be in the center top. So you see like a kind of a pear or upside down teardrop shape. You want to make it move up but still keep it connected, so you have to, like I said, you have to wing it. So kind of like that. This is kind of gonna come off already, I think. And then here they're gonna both want to move up. And then maybe down here we already have another one starting to form. And then another one down here while this one is moving up. Then these are going to combine with each other. Yep, they're close to combining already. And this is moving up. This is moving up. This is moving up. And then these are pretty much the same thing now. And now they are going to stretch like that until they split off. And then we repeat the cycle. And then give another one at the bottom there. Notice that it's always curved except for the tops of stuff. Only the tops and bottoms are allowed to be pointy. If you have like a straight line like that, that's weird. Or a corner somewhere. Okay, let's finish this up. Okay, let's look at it. Yep. So, real quick, I'm just going to make one that has 4 or maybe more. I don't know. Just make a flame that looks really big so you can see what I would do. Well, that's just 4. And let's see. That goes up. This goes up. This goes up. Comes off. This moves up. Okay, let's look at this one. Alright, it's starting to look a lot like fire. Yeah, so if you want to make a looping fire animation, all you have to do is take the first frame, and I'm going to hold down Alt to copy it, and then drag it to one frame past the last frame, or two, because we're going to try to make an in-between. So it looks like during the course of this animation it rose up a lot. So I'm just going to really quickly move all of them down frame by frame gradually, so it doesn't look so harsh. There we go. Okay. That's alright. That one could be lower. Okay. So here I'm going to press F7, and now we want to change our onion skins. We have a before and after. So this is kind of tricky. How do we make a before and after, or in between of these two? So we see these two shapes. I'm just going to combine them here. That's kind of a lucky in between there. And this looks like we could go in between that, and then just go between these two lines. And let's see, looks like we could just draw a shape that sort of morphs into this shape. So that looks really bad, but I think it'll be okay. So I think since this one has this shape gradually going up, we want to complete that in this frame by making it really small. So it kind of shrinks there, but we'll see how it looks. So I'm going to F7 that, and then we're going to copy these frames and then put them inside of a symbol. So copy, insert new symbol, we'll call it fire, and then right click the first frame and then paste frames. So I want to bring it to the center, so I'm going to extend these onion skin, press this edit multiple frames so I can select all of them and move all the frames to the center point. Uncheck that and get rid of onion skin. So let's see how it looks. Make sure that loop playback is on. Alright, you know what? Since it kind of shrinks down here, we're going to delete this and then extend this one into this one. How are we going to do that? I'm going to look at the previous frame and add what would be in the next frame from the previous frame, like that, and then bring that to the front and then delete this frame. So let's see how that looks. That looks quite a bit more smooth. Still jumps a lot, so I'm going to make this one change more to fit that one by moving some of these lines down. So I'll delete these lines and then move them more down. Let's see how that works. Okay, that's a bit smoother. Alright, so now what we want to do is fill it in with a gradient. So this fire gradient is pretty easy to make. We'll just make it a linear or a radial one. And then for the center we want to have white, and then after that we want yellow, and then maybe orange. And so let's see. We are going to go through each frame and then fill in the shape. Make sure that lock fill is not checked, otherwise you'll get something like that where it's all locked. Okay. And if you can't, if there's like empty, or if there's like gaps that cause it to be hard to close or fill, then go down here and check the close large gaps. So I'm pressing the period key to move between frames, so I can do it really quickly. These small ones are really hard to get. Alright, so now we have fire. And to get rid of these lines, we select all the frames, Control A to select everything, and then go to the stroke color and then click this box right here, and then it'll delete all the lines. So now we have fire. Look at that. We have just made our own fire animation. Now we can just put it down and watch it burn. Yeah, looks nice. Alright, so we just made some fire. So how do we make explosions? Explosions are very similar, but they require a lot more reference in order to make them. I used YouTube videos to understand how to make a realistic explosion, especially for this big one right here. Yeah. I used a YouTube video, this one in particular, and if you click through it, like pause it and play it, it starts out as a really bright blob and then quickly becomes a big spiky white blob, and then it becomes really big with some like rounded edges, and then it gets darker, like more orange and more orange, and then darker and darker brownish, reddish, and then it gradually turns into smoke with red in the middle. And then the smoke rises and the red fades away until it's just all gray. So I did something very similar, just kind of copying frame by frame. It starts out really white, and then small explosion, and then big explosion, like it's small poof cloud, and then spiky, and then more spiky, and then darker, and then it gets more cloud-like as it gets darker, and more dark with the red in the middle as it rises. So that's a complex explosion. A simpler explosion is this one, where it's just a cloud that changes color and moves up. So we can make a simple one using some of the similar principles. Of course, this is not that simple, since you see each one of these little poof balls has its own gradient, but we can make something similar with similar colors. So let's try it. Ooh gosh. So new layer, and we'll start out with a thing like that, and turn on onion skin, and then make it bigger, significantly bigger, and give it some extra spikes. And then as the spikes get bigger, put some like rounded edges. Still some spikes though. And then the cloud-like things will overcome the spikes and slow down. And then they'll slow down even more. Maybe split up a little bit. And start to rise. So maybe the bottom stays around there, but the top goes a little faster, if you notice. And then maybe even the bottom kind of looks sort of planted to the ground. I really don't know what this is going to look like. So maybe the insides kind of shrink and it gets narrower around the bottom, while the top gets bigger and starts to disappear. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna do a voiceover and speed up this process. So here I'm actually breaking up the bottom with little openings, and those openings gradually become the outside edges, as you can see here. And then I add a new opening in the middle of the top to speed up the disappearing process, and have those jagged lines move the fastest, and the clouded lines or the curvy lines move slower, so it looks like there's real motion. Okay, so that was my attempt at making a nice looking explosion. Let's see how it looks. Oh man, that was kind of cool. That was really cool, actually. Look at that. It was kind of quick to like turn into that cloud at the top, but I think it looks alright. So next we want to give it some color. So what I think we should do is make a color guide. So we will put keyframes on the beginning and the end, and have a square with the color we want it to be, but we will use shape tweening to tween through the colors, if that makes sense, and then use the colors from what the tween gives us to put on each frame. So we want it to be a lighter color than this in the beginning, probably like more like this, and then we want it to become something like in the video more like that. So I'm gonna change it to maybe gray with like dark red in the middle, so switch those around like that. Maybe darker red. Yeah. And in the middle, even here we want it to be like that actually. So let's move this here, and then at the end we want it to be basically just gray. Yeah. And here I think we want it to be more or less orange. So give it some orange like that. And then in between these will probably be something more dark like that. So I think that looks good. So now we're just going to shape tween it and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's what we want. Okay, if it looks good, then what we do is select all these and convert to keyframes. So now each one has its own fill. Okay, so with this one selected, we hit K to bring up the paint bucket and make sure close gaps is on, lock fill is off, and then we hit the I, and then pick this color, make sure we uncheck that again, and then fill. Okay, this might take a while, so bear with me. Oh man. Okay. Okay, so that was unnecessarily time consuming. I probably could have thought of a faster way to do that. In fact, I already have. I think we could have just had this shape behind it and then used this whole layer as a mask so that we would only see this shape with this color. Anyway, let's see how it looks. Woo hoo hoo. Man, I made a better explosion than ever. Might use that. Anyway, yeah, so now what we want to do is get rid of the lines. So edit multiple frames. Wow, look at that. That looks really cool. Select all and change the stroke to this. And then, ooh, that looks even cooler. Nice. Okay, so now it looks like that. And, ooh, what happened to this one? Oh, this one didn't even get filled. We can change that. Okay. Okay, so now, like we did with the fire, we take all these frames, copy them, insert new symbol, call it explode, and then paste the frames. And it looks like they're in a good spot. Okay, so that's how to make a basic explosion. If you want, you could add layers like I did with the other one, where there's like a layer of extra explosion on top of the primary explosion, and that would look definitely more realistic. But this is a basic way to do it, and yeah, a better way to get the color on each one of these shapes would be to actually take this layer and then put it over top of the whole thing. Let me see if I can do that. So if we select all of these and then scale them to fit that, I'm not sure that would look very good, but let's see. If we turn this into a mask, reverse that. It looks about the same, but yeah, if you don't understand what's going on, it's taking the top layer and using it as a guide for what to cut out of the bottom layer. So we could have just done that, but it's okay. So that's a basic explanation of how to make your own explosions in Flash, and I hope you can make better explosions than me, and use lots of reference to make your explosions. This video was really good for me. A lot of more explosions. And also, if you go to bluevertigo.com.ar, around this part there's a whole section of stock footage. Our stock video is good, and I found some stock video on Pond 5, and I searched explosion, and you can get lots of good explosions. Yeah, and just look at all of them. So I will post these links on the description. So hope you guys have fun making explosions and fire, and I will see you guys later.